Hello, in this presentation we will enter a transaction related to a cash sale for a service item into our bookkeeping problem in Excel, keeping in mind how that same information might be entered into accounting software such as QuickBooks. If you would like more information about the QuickBooks Pro, take a look at our comprehensive course in the link below. We're first going to start out with what it might look like to enter the data into QuickBooks and then go into Excel and enter that same information. This is the second cash sale that we have worked on. However, this time we're going to work with a service sale, meaning we're doing work or a service rather than inventory, which we had sold before. Last time we had sold guitar. Now we're going to be using service items. We're going to select the same item, however. If we were to look at QuickBooks, we will first look at QuickBooks and then go back to Excel, just giving a quick look at what it might look like in QuickBooks and then moving to recording this in Excel. If we were to do it in QuickBooks, we would select this item here, which is Create Sales Receipt, rather than the Create Invoice. The difference between the two is that if we were to create an invoice, it would mean that we hadn't yet received payment generally, and it means that we're going to increase accounts receivable and then receive payment in the future. When we select Create Sales Receipt, notice it kind of skips those first two items in this process, because what happens is we're getting payment at the same point that we do the work. In essence, we're saying here that we did the work and received payment at the same point in time, and then we'll be moving forward to the deposit straight from that point. If we enter this information, it's pretty simple to set this up if the items are already set up in the system. To set up a sales receipt and this transaction using QuickBooks, we would just need to enter the name of the customer and add the name if we need to. Then we have the payment type, the date, the sales number will populate automatically. And then we just need to know the items. In this case, we have a diagnostic and an hour service charge. If those are pre-set into the system and we just have basically the sticker price of those items, then we could just put those service items in there. So note that we're not selling a guitar here. This is service items. We don't have any related cost of goods sold. This is a bit of a more simplified transaction because of that. No reduction of inventory, no related cost of goods sold. The type of transaction you'd see for a bookkeeping service or a law firm, any service-oriented activity. We got the quantity, and then we have the rate. Now, in this case, we have these fixed rates. If you were working this, you might be charging like an hourly rate, and then you have the quantity times the hourly rate, and you'd have to put in the quantity of hours, or maybe we're charging a service just on a fixed rate for a particular service, in which case it would just populate as we enter the service. So that'll vary a little bit, and that'll total up. Notice there's no sales tax on this, because we're saying here that there is no sales tax on these service items. We're saying for this area, there's only sales tax on the sales of goods. So in our business that we're working with here, when we sell the guitar, we have the sales tax. When we don't sell the guitar or have service that we're selling, then there's no sales tax. So it's a bit more simplified of a transaction. If we think about what happens, we got money, we got payment, and therefore you would think we would increase the cash account, which we do, but we don't increase the checking account yet. We're going to put it into that undeposited funds, which we'll see when we record the transaction in Excel. And then the credit's going to go to some type of sales item because we earned revenue for this activity. So let's take a look at what this would look like in Excel. Back to Excel. Note that we have deleted or hidden. We did not delete them. We hid some items to the left just so we don't have them in our way, and we're working with a nice new sheet, a new general journal to enter the new data that we are putting in for this activity. We're going to record the sale, and if you saw this in a book problem, it would be something like a sale for cash rather than a book problem saying something like a sale on account, which would mean accounts receivable. It would have to indicate that we made a sale and received payment at the same point in time. Typically, that means for a book problem that the cash account would go up, which is usually the first account. For us, though, that's the checking account, and we haven't yet put it into the checking account, and therefore we're going to put it into first undeposited funds, and then once we deposit, we'll group them together, deposit them in one lump sum into the checking account. So we're going to go ahead and debit this undeposited funds for the amount of cash received, right-clicking and copying. And then let's put the date in here as well. We're going to put the date of 1/16. And then in cell L5, right-click and paste 123. Undeposited funds. And we're just going to put the total in there. There's no sales tax, so it's just whatever the sales amount was, which is 208 for our activities. Then we need a credit, and I'm just going to put the negative of that number, a negative 208. Negatives are bracketed numbers representing credits in this problem. What will that credit then go to? We earned some type of revenue. Remember, it's in order: assets, and then liabilities, and then equity, then income and expenses. We have 3 revenue type accounts here. There's our 3 revenue type accounts. In this case, we did a service revenue rather than sales. In book problems and in accounting software, oftentimes the default will be, when selling merchandise, sales, or something with sales in it, merchandise sales in this case. When you do a service company, it might say something like fees, because we might charge fees. When I used to hear that in a book problem, I used to always think of an expense, of a fee to someone else, but we're, in this case, in that context, we are the one charging the fees. So it would be fee, could be called revenue, could be called income, or service revenue. We're going to call it service here, so we're going to copy that, and we're going to put that on the bottom in L6, right-click and paste 123. Going to do some formatting, go into the Home tab, Alignment Group, and increase the indentation, and there we have our journal entry. Going to go ahead and post this out, so here's our first journal, top part we're going to post out. And it is the undeposited funds, which is located here on the trial balance, which will be located in a similar area on the general ledger. So we're going to scroll over till we see the undeposited fund. Actually, first let's freeze the panes again. So we'll put our cursor in AJ1 to freeze the panes to make this process a little bit more simplified. Then we're going to go up to the View tab up top, and we're going to the Windows group, and we want to select Freeze Panes. And then freeze panes. So now that we have the frozen panes, we're going to go to the undeposited funds. So we're going to scroll to the right until we find undeposited funds. We're going to scroll down a bit. There it is. So we want this item here. We can't quite see up top where we want to go. If we want to make it a little bit smaller, that might help. We're going to go down here. I'm at 120%. Let's bring it down to one more, 90%, and we could barely see it at 90%. In any case, we're going to be way down here in AU26 and select equals, and then we're pointing to that 28 in M5. I'm going to make it large again, back to 120%. If that was difficult to see, then you could just type in there, if it's in the same spot of the worksheet, it was M. No, I forgot what it was. It was M5. So you could just type in M5, and then once you do so, or equals M5, and then select enter, and you'll have the 208. That'll increase this amount to 21,128. We should see that same 21,128 over here on the trial balance. There it is. And so that is looking good. Then we're going to record the service part. Remember, it's in order: assets, liabilities, equity, and then income. It's an income item, the service item. So we're looking for that service item. We're looking for the dark blue accounts. I'm going to scroll over to the general ledger dark blue accounts. And there's the merchandise sales. It's going to be after the merchandise sales. So there's the rent. I'm going to scroll back up. And there's the sales items. So we are over here in BL8. I'm going to scroll back to the right and see if we can get side by side. There we go. So we're in BL8, and we just want to pick up that 208. This is a lot nicer, so we'll just click on that 208, and that's going to increase our service. Going to scroll back to the 208, then should be on our trial balance. We're going to scroll back to the trial balance, scroll down, and we see the 208 there. That should also increase our net income. So we're back in balance. Net income increased, meaning net income is calculated as this credit plus this credit minus the debit, and that gives us the 446. We're going to see the same information can now be used to generate the financial statements as it would automatically in an accounting software. I'm going to go ahead and unfreeze the frames first, and then we'll take a look at the financials. We'll go to the View tab, Windows Group, Freeze Panes, and Unfreeze. And then we're going to go down here and we're going to say we did something to undeposited funds. So I'm going to go up top and just point to that. That's going all the way to the financial statements. And we did something to this service item. And let's see what happens to the financials just automatically. And this is what in essence happens in accounting software. I'm just scrolling to the right to where the financials will be. So we're scrolling all the way to the right. There's the financials. Undeposited funds has gone up. It should basically be in cash, this whole undeposited funds, but we're breaking it out to be able to see how it can just be automatically updated in the financials. And we can see that total assets then are just going to be automatically updated because we have this all this system can be done so once we have it input correctly. And that equals the liabilities and equity. The income went up by that 208, bringing up the gross profit and bringing up the net income, no other expenses at this point in time. And the statement of equity, we started at 85,397 from the beginning balances. The owner put in another 65,000. We currently have net income of 446 coming from the income statement, and that has a net increase of the 65,446, and the total in ending owner's equity 150,843 matches what is on the balance sheet up top, 150,843. So note that this could all be automatically put together. We will see how it's automatically put together at a later time at the end of this month's worth of transactions.